Pittsburgh Steelers top insider reports that Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith do not like each other and have not seen eye to eye for quite a while now. And this came after a report mid-season that Arthur Smith would actually prefer to have Justin Fields as a starter over Russell Wilson and have Russell Wilson benched. Russell Wilson took exception to this, and their relationship has been shaky ever since. But first, before I get more into it, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news and updates. Also like this video. Now, let's get right back into it. So, this offseason, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they brought in 2 starting caliber quarterbacks, a young guy in Justin Fields, and a proven quarterback, a veteran in Russell Wilson. And you have a lot to prove with this team with a new offense, and both guys were coming off of seasons where their teams basically didn't want them anymore. So the Steelers took them in, and they were supposed to be a competition. Russell Wilson won it basically, and Justin Fields took over when injury happened. And then Russell Wilson, he took over when he returned from injury. But the transition back to Wilson after he got cleared from his injury, his calf injury, it was a bit shaky, and it spurred controversy because there was tension within the organization per reports. Head coach Mike Tomlin, he made the long-term decision to basically go back to Russell Wilson after the Pittsburgh Steelers started the season 4-2 with Justin Fields, but it was rumored to be met with kind of resistance, particularly from the offense coordinator Arthur Smith. Because per whispers and per reports, Smith actually did not like this. He actually would rather have Justin Fields be the starting quarterback, and this is per Steelers insiders. So the dynamic between the coaching staff and the quarterbacks became a focal point as the season progressed, because obviously leaving fans and analysts speculating about the internal workings of the team. And obviously there's going to be some tension, because when the report came out that actually Arthur Smith would prefer Justin Fields, how would that make Russell Wilson feel? He's the starter. He's the one working with Arthur Smith for hours on end, and he's there every day working, trying to get a game plan every single week. So obviously this allowed and made these two sides kind of bash and had a shaky working relationship as the season went on. So as the season concluded, uncertainty looms right now over the futures of both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in Pittsburgh. On Tuesday, Steelers insider Mark Kaboly added fuel to the fire, revealing that Wilson and Smith's relationship was not as good as it appeared. Despite public displays of basically these two saying, hey, we're working hours on end, and Arthur Smith saying that sometimes he has to be checked in on because they're spending hours and hours after practice going through film, it doesn't mean that they had a good relationship, because friction existed. And this raised questions about how this dynamic may have influenced the Steelers' offensive struggles and future plans. So, per Mark Kaboly, this is his quote: "Reports surfaced during the year that offense coordinator Arthur Smith preferred Fields over Wilson, but that was never substantiated. Still, despite Wilson and Smith spending countless hours together after the typical workday, watching film and publicly joking about it, a team source recently said that Wilson and Smith did not have a very good working relationship, but fought through their differences as best they could." End quote. He further went on after and said, "It's unknown whether or not that relationship will weigh in on the decision moving forward for either side." End quote. What basically that means is if Russell Wilson will come back, if Arthur Smith is still the offense coordinator, it's still yet to be seen. And then also if the Steelers would want him back, because obviously Arthur Smith prefers Justin Fields. So will they bring back Russell Wilson, or will they now move to Justin Fields because that's what Arthur Smith wanted all along? Well, even though these are all reports by insiders and you have to take it with a grain of salt, you look at the remarks at the time, it was more humorous when obviously the report came out that Arthur Smith preferred Justin Fields, especially because you would think the offense coordinator would have a big role on who's starting and that he runs the offense, so Mike Tomlin would kind of listen to him. But obviously that was more humorous at the time. But looking at Smith's offense in general, the offense didn't flourish the way fans kind of hoped during the 2024 season, kind of leaving questions about his future in Pittsburgh. While it's unclear if he'll draw interest as a head coach elsewhere, I know he's interviewed with some other teams. If some team signs him, then the Steelers have to go looking for an offense coordinator. And maybe that new offense coordinator would prefer Russell Wilson. But if it doesn't, and Smith has to come back, you look at it, and will Arthur Smith choose or have Russell Wilson or Justin Fields come back? If he stays, fans are already speculating about how his working relationship or lack thereof will Wilson might be impacted as the team's quarterback plans moving forward. You look at both Wilson and Fields, they've both expressed their desire to return to Pittsburgh, but bringing them back won't be cheap, so the Pittsburgh Steelers will kind of have to choose between one of two of them. They're going to have to pick one of the two and move on from one another because they can't sign both to a lengthy contract for high money. That's just not possible in terms of the cap and everything like that to build a good solid team around them. So they're going to end up having to choose. Will it be Russell Wilson? Will it be Justin Fields? But if we're looking at who Arthur Smith would choose, well, we know he would choose Justin Fields. And to be honest, I think he would fit Arthur Smith's offense better, especially because Arthur Smith wants to run the ball and Justin Fields is a running quarterback. But on top of that, not even just the game plan and everything like that, just for team's sake, in terms of the contract length and his age, he's the younger and cheaper option. And he still has so much to grow. Look at him before Russell Wilson took over. He was 4-2, and he started off the season really well. And you look at his statistics compared to other quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes at the time, it was better than everyone basically. Passer rating, interception and touchdown ratio, rushing touchdown, rushing yards, everything like that was top of the league. But he was benched in favor of Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson, even though he looked good in the first few starts back, his age really started showing later towards the end of the season where he became less mobile. And you look at who's more mobile between the two, obviously it's Justin Fields, and you could run so much more stuff with Justin Fields, especially when Russell Wilson can't escape the pocket in terms of breaking away from sacks. Yes, he could run for 10 yards here and there if it's wide open, but in terms of escaping pressure and things like that and avoiding sacks, he's just not going to do that. He's taking too many sacks, and Justin Fields, he could at least evacuate the pocket if needed and get it going for the offense. Yes, his accuracy might not be the same as Justin Fields, but his deep ball accuracy when he was playing was basically the same. I know we praise Russell Wilson's moon balls, but Justin Fields had a good deep ball as well, and he proved that when he was playing. And he has more better legs. Russell Wilson has a better shorter ball in terms of accuracy, but at some point you're going to have to pick between the two. Do you really think this team will be a Super Bowl contender next season with Russell Wilson, or do you look to the future and look towards Justin Fields as a younger option who could develop for the next few years? So you really have to take that into account. If you're thinking Super Bowl next year, maybe you go Russell Wilson because he's a more veteran guy. But if you're thinking towards the future for the next couple seasons or few years down the road or decade, then you turn to Justin Fields. There's no position in the draft right now because the Steelers have like the 20th pick or 21st pick. So there's not really a quarterback you could pick in the draft that late who you know for sure will be a really good quarterback. There's not really a good quarterback in free agency unless you plan on taking away Sam Darnold from the Vikings. But even then, he's a one-hit wonder this season, so who knows? So there's not really a good viable option in free agency other than older quarterbacks, and there's not really a person in the draft. So if you're going to return with Russell Wilson, sure. But if you're going to pick Justin Fields for the future, that's the way to go in my opinion. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this topic. That's what Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson's relationship was like during the season. I know it could be a shock to most people because it looked fine from the outside looking in, other than that one report earlier in the season that they didn't like each other and things like that. Arthur Smith would prefer Russell Wilson. As now you look in on it, you would expect Russell Wilson to be hurt from that and be like, why would you prefer him over me if I'm starting? That doesn't make sense. So obviously you would expect Russell Wilson to have some type of bad taste in his mouth towards Arthur Smith after those reports were true. But at the end of it, it looked like they hid the bad feelings towards each other basically all season. But now it's come out by Mark Aboli, the Steelers top insider, that they actually didn't like working with each other. And they kind of hid those feelings. Anyway, that's the report. That's my thoughts. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you believe the Steelers should turn to Justin Fields as a starting quarterback? And how do you feel about Russell Wilson returning to the Steelers as well? Who do you want? And what's your feelings towards the relationship between Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson? Do you think there is a bad working relationship? And do you think Russell Wilson and Arthur Smith despise each other? Let me know your thoughts. And also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports. Everything surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, I cover it. Even though the season's over and there's no more football right now, there's still draft, there's still free agency, there's still the off season. So I'm covering everything following the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though the season's over. So like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Until next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.